Tenet holding strong to its July release date, Avatar 2 filming underwater, and how's Robert Pattinson doing? All that and more here on One Take Daily. Welcome to One Take Daily, where we talk about the latest TV, film, and pop culture news every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But before we get into all that, I'm Gil, here with my brother Adam.
Hello.
My tech guy / brother Alon.
Yo.
And first-time one-taker Daniel.
Hey, what's up?
Quick reminder before we get into it to hit the subscribe button and, of course, the bell icon to make sure you get notified the next time we go live. So just like Drew in the chat here, you can join the chat and be part of the conversation. Let's start with a movie which I think it's fair to say this is all of us, our most anticipated movie of the year.
Next to Scooby-Doo, Scoob, right?
Scoob coming out this Friday. Alon, Tenet, this is the movie. This is the one we're waiting for.
Dude, I can't wait.
Daniel loves to be a contrarian, so I'm expecting a curveball answer. But Daniel, Christopher Nolan's Tenet, you excited for this movie?
I'm really excited. I think it's going to be awesome.
All right, well, this movie is the one that everybody's looking at to be the savior of cinema in America and potentially the world, because a bunch of movies have had their release dates delayed due to COVID-19 or coronavirus, but Tenet has been and continues to be scheduled for a July 17th release. Now, everybody's been watching that closely to see if it's going to get delayed. Variety came out with an article almost a week ago, 6 days ago today, and in that article they said insiders expect that the studio will make a decision within a week about whether to hold Tenet's planned debut on July 17th or push it back deeper into 2020. And that's an important decision to make because whenever your release is scheduled to happen, there's a big expensive marketing push that happens right before that. So it's a big decision to make. They said they're going to decide within a week. It's been 6 days, so any minute now we should hear. What do you guys think? Adam, is Tenet going to be released in cinemas July 17th?
I think it will.
You think it will?
Yeah.
Wow, medical. You have a medical background.
I do.
So you're taking that variable into account. Daniel knows economics. So the two of you put your opinion together. Is it going to happen, Daniel?
I don't think so.
Oh, wow.
Oh, all right.
I mean, they're not. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that Tenet will be the driving force for getting people back out of the house, and it'll all the senators and everyone will be like, "Listen, Tenet's coming out. We got to open things back up."
Yeah. Plus, it's a full 2 months away from now. I don't see that much changing between now and then. But what I do see is people in America getting pretty restless, and
right.
I think it could actually end up being. I know in China when they reopened the movie theaters, they had very weak showings from the crowds.
It was like 12 people went to the theater. Basically.
Yeah, but I think in America, people are really getting sick of this and just want to go do something.
Now, Daniel, you disagree. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think, right, like a lot of places are extending their shelter in place. So it seems like pretty unlikely to me that you're going to have enough of the country be out of it, by July. And it seems strange to me that they would risk releasing such an important, movie that they invested so much in when you could have such a low turnout, right? Even if shelter in place is lifted, what Adam was just describing could happen, right? And that seems like that could be a huge risk.
Yeah, and a part of it is that they think releasing a big movie like this is what will get people to come back to theaters. So they don't want it to be a small movie where you do the risk reward. I feel a little bit uncomfortable going outside. Maybe I'm not going to do it for Scoob, but for Tenet, I will. Now, the other argument is it might be a lower turnout, but you also have to keep in mind there will be no other movies playing. I mean, literally, there could be no other movies playing for a week. So Tenet could be on every screen in America, which will also help with social distancing. Daniel take one theater, I take another. Adam could sit in the back and watch through the window.
I want 2 theaters.
So, honestly, I have absolutely no idea. Drew in the chat says, no way people are going to want to go to theaters. If it's released, it'll be direct to streaming. I do think that theaters cannot be the first thing to open up. The only way Tenet happens in July is if a lot more stuff starts to go back to normal in June. Though I disagree with Drew in that no way this movie goes to streaming, especially since Christopher Nolan is such a fan of the theater that he would rather delay this movie a year, in my opinion, than let this thing go to Netflix or another streaming service. Now,
I say when we really reach the point where you can get your hair cut not by my hand, that's when theaters will open.
Adam did give me my second quarantine haircut today, and I think it came out great.
Yeah.
IMAX CEO Richard Gelfond, in a recent earnings call, spoke about Christopher Nolan. He said, Chris really would like to be coming out with the film that opens theater. I don't know anyone in America who is pushing harder to get the theaters reopen and to get his movie released than Christopher Nolan. So like I said, he's very passionate about cinema. In fact, back in March, when all this lockdown stuff was starting, Nolan wrote an op-ed for Washington Post. He talked about government support. He talked about how the studios and the exhibitors need to unite and work together. And then he ended the op-ed with a line, Daniel, which I think speaks directly to you. Maybe, like me, you thought you were going to the movies for surround sound or goobers or soda and popcorn or movie stars. But we weren't. We were there for each other.
You saying? Are you calling Daniel a goober?
I don't know. What do you think, Adam? When you go to the theater, are we going to the theater because we want to be together and experience cinema as an audience, or are you going for the goobers?
As a child, I went for the goobers and the bunch of crunch. And specifically, I went not for the people because I really didn't like sitting on the outside of the group and knowing I could be next to a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
But now I can look at it and say, I think there's some movies that it's fun to enjoy with a crowd.
Right. A lot of my friends have gotten pessimistic and cynical about the theater-going experience. They would much rather stay home and watch something on VOD or streaming than go to a theater. But I still love the theater. I love that smell of popcorn. I like experiencing the movie with an audience. Like you said, I think it depends on the film. Going to see Avengers, there are some of those huge crowd-pleasing moments, and there is an energy that comes from everybody in the theater experiencing this thing together. So I do miss the theater. I want to get back to it. What about you, Daniel? Are you one of these humdrum, I want to stay at home type of people, or do you still enjoy going to the theater?
No, I definitely still like the theater as well. I think being there with an audience is part of it, but I feel like it's more just going to a specific building to watch a movie, right? Like everything is just so immersive. It just puts you in the mindset to be totally focused on the movie as opposed to like watching it at home. It's just way less exciting.
And it's actually against the rules to touch your phone when you're in there, and so you're less likely to actually pull it out and get distracted.
That's right. I think there is something to the idea of leaving your house, going somewhere else, and mentally it does help disconnect you from all the stuff you've got going on at home, and you can really focus and be in the movie while you're watching it. Now, moving on from the release date, they have actually shed a little bit of light on Tenet. It's a pretty mysterious movie. Even watching the trailer, we get that there's espionage, we get that there's something weird going on with time, but they are going to be releasing a behind-the-scenes book on this movie, and they put a listing for it on Amazon. Alon, I'm going to go ahead and pull it up. If you go to the Amazon listing for Tenet, it is called The Secrets of Tenet, inside Christopher Nolan's Quantum Cold War. Daniel, how excited do you get hearing Quantum Cold War? And based off just that little tidbit, what do you think this movie's about?
I have no idea. I mean, I remember the trailer showed something that seemed like time travel, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, quantum makes me think of like quantum computing. So some type of computing battle.
Well, Daniel, this will shed some light for you. This is the ultimate exploration of a film guaranteed to linger in the imagination long into the future and perhaps the past. So I guess, like you said, maybe a time travel element of some sort.
I'm interested in the Cold War segment there. So in the real Cold War, it was all about nuclear armament and the there wasn't actually a lot of physical action happening. There were a lot of proxy wars and things like that, but the two major powers were just building up their technology and spying on each other, and neither one wanted to kind of make that first move of aggression. And so I think in the real life, I think when we start to learn more about quantum physics and the power available there, we could see a second Cold War just like that. So.
Right. And I think the Cold War aspect of this title implies that there probably is a recent innovation in technology. We're starting to get our arms around quantum science and be able to actually apply it in the real world as a weapon or as something else very powerful. So I'm assuming there's some kind of, maybe we're on the brink of getting to the next phase of this technology, and there's a sort of arms race. But either way, I'm super hyped for this movie, so I don't know if I can get any more hyped. But when you say things to me like quantum Cold War or anything really about time, I get excited, and this movie can't come soon enough. Moving on from Tenet, let's go to another movie that I know, Daniel, you are super psyched about. Remember that movie Avatar?
Yeah.
Came out back in 2009. So I don't know if you know that they've announced 4 sequels to this film. We've got Avatar 2 coming out in 2021, and then every 2 years through 2027, you get Avatar 2, 3, 4, and 5.
So do you think this is like a Tenet situation where it was supposed to come out in 2019 and they accidentally hit the wrong button and it came out in 2009 or whatever?
Now, this movie, I don't recall how many times it's been delayed, but Avatar 2 was expected years ago, and it's been delayed so many times. And because you delay Avatar 2, of course, Avatar 3, 4, and 5 get delayed too. Because it would be weird if it was Avatar 3, and then in a couple years, Avatar 2 will come out.
I don't know. As a kid, Star Wars Episode 1 was kind of confusing. So,
was it you or Daniel that didn't realize that the new Star Wars movies were prequels?
Daniel.
The fact that he's not talking makes me
Sounds
think
like
it was
me.
Daniel.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into the current status of Avatar 2, I want to know where you all land on the debate over Avatar and whether or not it's a culturally relevant film. So a lot of people say one of the highest performing movies of all time, but I don't really think about it that much. I couldn't tell you the name of the main character. I barely remember it. It's exited the zeitgeist, if you will. Do you fall on that side of the argument, or do you say, no, Avatar was a big movie, and I can't wait for Avatar 2?
Can I be in the middle?
Go ahead.
I never really thought about the movie that much after it happened, but at the time that I saw it, it was visually really impressive. It was impressive in the literal sense. Like, it made an impression on you, and it was something a lot of people talked about for a little bit. I think it's going to get a huge reception when it comes out for the sequel.
Now, I know, Alon, you tend to be a very cynical, very hard-to-please person,
Yeah.
so I'm very curious where you fall on the Avatar debate.
I think maybe I need to see the movie again, because my current feeling about Avatar is, yeah, it was fine. It was a good movie, but I don't I've never been like insanely excited for a sequel.
Right.
Obviously, I'll see it and I'll probably like it.
Yeah.
But what do you think based on what you remember? Should I rewatch the first, and do you think maybe I'll care more for it?
I think if you rewatch it, you'll probably experience it the same way you did the first time. Oh, it's a fun movie. It's a great way to pass 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I remember when it first came out, all the hype about it, it was purely about the visuals because of the technology they were using, which to me it needs more than just amazing visuals to, get me super excited.
Now, the weird thing is that the first Avatar movie, like you alluded to, I think a big part of the hype was the technology, right? I think on two aspects. One, the incredible motion capture, having all of these big blue cats that look very real running around. And the other aspect was 3D. James Cameron told us he's bringing back 3D, but this isn't what you remember from the 80s with the flimsy red and blue glasses. This is the real thing. So I have to wonder, what is the big draw for Avatar 2?
Smell-o-vision.
There you go. We're going into the fourth dimension of film. Well, I'll say that in all of the interviews with James Cameron and in all of the hype they've had for Avatar 2, they seem to very strongly emphasize the fact that a lot of the movie's going to be shot underwater. And in fact, they've released some images of that. Alon, I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. The official Avatar Twitter account released a few behind-the-scenes photos where you can see some of the underwater filming. Now, when I first saw this picture here, I thought, are they shooting it in a big ball pit and they're going to simulate water? Well, it turns out they are in a big tub of water, which you can see from these side pictures. But what they do is they put a layer of balls at the top of the water so they can control how much light is shining through.
Cool.
And to get you all, I know you're all a little bit down on Avatar. Oh, is it still relevant? I don't even remember it. I'm going to get you excited by showing you some concept art from Avatar 2. Look at that beautiful scenery. Daniel, look at that. Don't you want to go to Pandora? And remember, at night, everything glows. It's
yeah,
beautiful.
you know what? The world. This is taking me back. The world building was kind of cool, right?
Yeah, at least visually, it's a place you wanted to go. There were even people that suffered from, I forget what they called it, but there was a wave of people who were depressed because they couldn't go to Pandora. That's how great they realized
I
this
have
world.
felt light versions of that about Hogwarts. But over the years, Hogwarts started to seem like more and more dangerous and less pleasant. So I stopped caring.
Yeah, Adam always fantasized about being the Voldemort in that situation.
Yeah.
So when Voldemort started to get defeated, he was like, I don't want to be part of this world.
This isn't fun anymore. Maybe I'll be that like military guy in Avatar instead. He looked pretty happy.
Right, the guy who drinks coffee as they fly in. Our dad was a big fan of that character. In fact, our dad has a weird obsession with this movie. He's watched it like 10 times.
Yeah.
So there are people out there who continue to love this film and look forward to Avatar 2. But the question is, will Avatar 2 release in 2021? Now, Avatar was just gearing up to film in New Zealand when all the productions around the world shut down. But the good news is that the New Zealand Film Commission recently funded the creation of some safety protocols that basically say, we want to get back to filming, and here are all the guidelines we'll follow to make it safe. The New Zealand government just recently okayed those guidelines, and according to Variety, some film and TV productions are already safely underway, which means Avatar can get back to filming, and Lord of the Rings, which was also filming in New Zealand. Both of these productions should be able to safely return to filming.
I really hope Lord of the Rings becomes the first Amazon Prime show I actually like.
Right, so moving off of Avatar, talking about Lord of the Rings, this is a show that I want to be really excited for.
Yeah.
Right, we love the Lord of the Rings movies. Avatar, or Amazon, Jeff Bezos, he says he wants this to be their Game of Thrones. So
I hope he said that like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I'm going to let you chew on that for a second while I say hello to Xavier Lee in the chat who says, hey, guys. Hello. Well, hello to you, sir, and welcome back. So Lord of the Rings is going on a hiatus, a filming hiatus, but it's not necessarily because New Zealand shut the production down. This is a series that Amazon really believes in, so they're not going to go through the whole rigmarole of let's shoot a pilot, see if we like it, then decide whether or not to go to series. They ordered not 1, but 2 seasons of this show, so the plan was always let's shoot a couple of episodes, then take a 4 to 5 month break and get back to filming. That's pretty standard practice for movies that are ordered, or for television shows that are ordered direct to series. Because you don't have the pilot to go off of and decide, hey, do we really like this show? You shoot a couple of episodes, take a break, look at the footage. Do you want to tweak anything, change anything? Use that time to map out the rest of the series. So they were always planning to go on hiatus. When coronavirus hit, they went on hiatus a little earlier than predicted. But Adam, when I tell you that Jeff Bezos wants this to be their Game of Thrones, you get a little bit worried.
Well, remember Prime Day, Amazon Prime Day? That seems to have frequently disappointed.
Prime Day. Tell us what that is.
Yeah, it's just a one day a year. It's kind of like Black Friday, but for Amazon, and Amazon Prime is supposed to have all these great deals. And it just seems every year people end up pretty disappointed with either the deals weren't good or the items they wanted sold out really fast. So Jeff Bezos's backing doesn't give me any extra confidence. What really takes away my confidence is that I've tried multiple Amazon Prime shows, and basically every single one of them started off okay and got me to buy into them a little bit, and then they all turned to garbage. I've tried like 3 different Amazon Prime shows, which I know is not that many, but it's enough for me to lose faith in them.
But you're still going to join us for that upload season.
Oh, definitely.
review, right?
Yeah,
All right,
definitely.
Perfect.
Well, Adam gave
garbage is too strong of a word for that. But.
Adam and Alon both gave Upload rave reviews. They said,
Whoa.
I enjoy it more than I don't enjoy it.
Yeah. Right, which is probably what most people say about most Amazon Prime shows. The problem is, I love the Lord of the Rings movies. I loved all 3 of them. I've watched them in the extended edition form probably about 10 times each. And so I really like Lord of the Rings. I read all the books. I read The Hobbit. So I really want it to be good, and I don't trust it with them. And the other thing is, the Hobbit movies were so bad that we're not there's nothing in its favor right now.
Yeah, I know. I want it to be good. I remember when Lord of the Rings first came out, the movies, it got me so excited for fantasy. And I thought these movies are doing so well, it's going to blow the doors open for more fantasy films and television shows. Really nothing besides Game of Thrones, for at least a time, has lived up to that potential. So I really want this show to be good. I'm worried about Amazon Prime. I haven't loved anything. Vanessa in the chat says The Boys is so good. Xavier says the only good show on Amazon is The Boys. Has anyone else here besides me watched that show?
I haven't even heard of it.
Adam hasn't heard of it. Alon?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
Daniel?
Never heard of it.
Oh, American Gods is another one
I
that Xavier Lee mentioned.
Yeah, I watched the first episode of that. There was a
Well,
very interesting scene in that.
To be fair, though, American Gods was a Starz show that airs on Amazon Prime, but I don't think I would consider that an Amazon original.
I did read the book, and it was great.
I did watch every episode of The Boys, season 1, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. I didn't love it. I don't think I've had an Amazon Prime show that I love yet. Oh, Fleabag.
I've heard good things.
Is that the one we watched way back when? Fleabag?
I don't remember anything about.
All right. Well, Vanessa in the chat says Fleabag is a great show, and we either watched it and loved it, or I heard that it's great. Either way, it sounds like Amazon maybe can pull something off here, but we'll see. My fingers are crossed, but I'm nervous. I'm nervous for it. Now, coronavirus is going on. A lot of people are staying indoors. They're trying to pull themselves together, pass the time. And I know what we're all wondering. How's Robert Pattinson handling all this? Alon, I'm going to pull up here a picture. Look at this. Look at Robert Pattinson here in his apartment. He's falling apart. He looks terrible. He looks like, remember when I used to live in Schenectady in upstate New York?
Yeah.
And I had that bare apartment that I never furnished, and I would sit on the floor, eat out of a can of beans.
You had an air mattress blocking the window.
In this GQ interview, Robert Pattinson literally says, I'm eating stuff directly out of the can. I'm opening up a can of tuna, putting some spices in it,
You
and
can
just
see
eating
the
it.
beans.
Rich in the chat, by the way, says Patriot was an awesome Prime original. I've also heard that's great, by the way. I think you know what? We're being a little too hard on Bezos. We need to give Amazon Prime a chance. There have been our father watches Bosch, though he also loved Avatar, so I don't know.
I liked Avatar.
Right, so we've got to give Amazon Prime another chance. But if we look at Robert Pattinson here, he's eating out of a can. Look at his hair. It's all mussed up. Looks terrible.
His beard's all patchy.
He's unshaven.
Yeah.
But they're...
Does he have coronavirus?
No.
I'm serious.
No, I think he's just a little bit pale. He's trying to recapture the vampire look. But where is Robert Pattinson? He's in London right now. He's in the apartment that the Batman folks rented for him during filming. And that is one movie that's currently suffering from the COVID-19 shutdown. They've put filming on pause. So a lot of people are wondering, how is Robert Pattinson going to stay in shape to play Bruce Wayne? The answer And this is from GQ. They say the film studio hired a trainer who left Pattinson with a Bozu ball. What's that, Adam?
That's like it's like a blue half of a ball that's like mounted on this plastic platform. You can use it for like balancing.
Yoga people balance on that, right?
I don't know. I've seen it used in like physical therapy.
Well, so they left him with a Bozu ball, a single weight, and a sincere plea to use both. But right now,
A single weight?
they don't specify what that is. Maybe it's those blocks they have on the machines. They just ripped one of them off and handed them to him. A single weight and a sincere plea to use both. But right now, Robert Pattinson says he's ignoring her. I think this is what Robert Pattinson says. I think if you're working out all the time, you're part of the problem, he says, sighing. By you, he means other actors. You set a precedent. No one was doing this in the 70s. Even James Dean, he wasn't exactly ripped.
Dude, he's just lazy.
So
he just doesn't want to do it.
Well, so I think the most important takeaway here is that I was going to say all four of us, but Daniel, you have not been working out. Is that accurate to say?
I have a pull-up bar arriving tomorrow.
And a Bosu ball.
And one weight.
Well, the three of us have been working out diligently. You know what that means?
We're Batman.
We're all in better shape. Listen, ladies, all three of us are in better shape than Robert Pattinson right now. So Pattinson called another actor on the film, Zoe Kravitz. She's going to be playing Catwoman, I believe. And she said she's exercising 5 days a week. Pattinson said, literally, I'm just barely doing anything. He says, sighing again.
They shouldn't send him a trainer. They should send him a therapist.
Well, Xavier Lee in the chat says he can do virtual training. So, yeah.
So we're going to have... Is he still going to get to be Batman?
Well...
Doesn't Batman have to look... I guess CGI is getting really good these days. Look, they made Robert De Niro young.
Well, if it gives you any hope, he is on a meal plan where the Batman film set, they're sending him food every day.
Canned beans.
So, Movie Files in the chat, and shout out to Movie Files. I was on his channel a few weeks back. He's got an awesome channel you should all check out. He says, I think his sense of humor is very different. Remember his comments about how he doesn't see Batman as a superhero. He's just having fun with the fans. And yeah, I hate to admit it. I do think he's just joking around. A lot of people are taking it seriously, though, because the fan base has been pretty split. It's been pretty, I mean, every time they cast someone as Batman, it's super divisive.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been complaining Pattinson doesn't really look like he's in great shape. So hearing this, I think he probably heard all those criticisms and decided he's going to troll the fans a little bit. But what do we think of Robert Pattinson as Batman? Does anybody here have strong opinions about it? Or, Alon, are you taking your usual, I got to see a trailer. I got to see how the movie looks first approach?
Similar approach. I don't think I've seen enough of his work. All I've really seen it was Twilight.
Yeah, I've actually heard that... So I haven't seen any of his stuff after Twilight, I think, but I've heard that he's been in some really good things and that his acting is actually much better than you'd expect.
I heard that as well from Gil.
That's right. And by the way, Adam and Alon both just admitted to having watched Twilight. But
it's okay if it's with a girl.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
so
mine wasn't.
I did actually... So actually, that's a great recommendation for anybody who's watching this. If you go to Netflix and look up the movie Good Time, that is from the same writers and directors as Uncut Gems, a movie starring Robert Pattinson, and I did think he killed it in that role.
The Safdie brothers.
The Safdie brothers, that's right. So, I mean, for me, the quality of a movie, I find it usually is more associated with the director than the actors. When I see a movie that I love and I want to see more movies like it, I say who directed this movie and I check out their movies. Versus actors, where every once in a while I love an actor and I'll watch whatever they're in, but there are plenty of great actors who are in both great movies, terrible movies, and Matt Reeves, who is directing Batman, I think is a solid director. Rich in the chat says Good Times is awesome, couldn't agree more. But he says Matt Reeves is not Christopher Nolan. And I agree with that. Matt Reeves, for me, is a great blockbuster filmmaker. The Planet of the Apes movies he did were really solid. So I would fall somewhere in the middle on the hype train. I'd say I think at a minimum, the Batman movie's going to be good, but I'm crossing my fingers that it's going to be great.
You're in the cafe car of the hype train.
That's right. That's right. Xavier Lee says, I think it's more important with the story. His acting is phenomenal. Yeah, exactly what I'm saying. It's all going to depend on the story. It's going to depend on the direction. But I have no doubt that Pattinson can fulfill the director and the writer's vision for this movie. What about you, Daniel? You've been oddly silent during this whole discussion. What do you think about
just dreaming about Robert Pattinson? I think.
Yeah, it's a little drool on his chin. What do you think, Robert Pattinson?
I'm the one person here who's not seen Twilight. Sorry, what was the question?
I haven't seen Twilight. But what do you think? Are you excited for the Batman film? How do you feel about Robert Pattinson in the role?
I'm always going to be excited for a Batman movie. I think he'll be fine. Do you know, are they doing the origin story again? Like, what is the continuity of this movie?
This is... It's a young Batman. He recently began his vigilante career, but it's not an origin story. It sounds like this is going to be taking a lot of inspiration from the comic Batman Year One, but we've also heard it's taking a lot of inspiration from Batman Long Halloween. So I think it's going to be Batman as a detective. They've said that they really want to emphasize the detective aspect of Batman, which I love that because if you watch the Christopher Nolan movies, Batman is often referred to as the world's greatest detective. I don't recall that much detective work in those movies. There are not a lot of moments where I'd say, wow, Bruce Wayne is a genius. I would say, wow, he's in really great shape. And he's pretty awesome.
It's a good thing he's working out his mental muscle.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, look at these pictures, right? He looks like he's really got it psychologically together there. Movie Files in the chat says 2014, The Rover, 2017, Good Time, and last year's Lighthouse. So those are great movies that Robert Pattinson was in. If you have any doubts about his acting ability, go watch those movies. And then, Daniel, you'll feel a lot better about this upcoming Batman movie. So you can rest easy, all right? Moving on from Batman, let's talk about Star Wars. There's been some news recently about The Mandalorian. It seems like every week we hear about another person who's been cast or another character that's going to appear in The Mandalorian Season 2. Now, the first piece of news is Bob Chapek, the new CEO for Disney, confirmed that Mandalorian Season 2 is still on track to be released this year in October. They've got most of the show was filmed, or in fact, I believe all of Season 2 was filmed before the shutdown, and they've continued post-production remotely. In fact, they've even begun pre-production on Season 3. So again, Daniel, calm down, relax, everything's fine. Mandalorian Season 2 is going to happen.
I'm worried if it gets delayed, Baby Yoda will age too much in between seasons.
Well, before we get into some of what's been revealed about Season 2, what is, Adam, let's start with you, your current feeling on Mandalorian Season 2? Are you looking forward to it? Boo!
I never even finished Season 1.
You didn't?
The show lost me. It started off amazing and it turned so stupid.
Beginning was great, middle was bad, end was really good.
I would say it was really good.
Really
Adam
good.
Was in the cafe car. Then he jumped off the train before Giancarlo Esposito showed up.
No, I think I saw him.
You might have finished the season. You just don't remember, I think.
No, I definitely didn't finish the season.
Daniel, did you finish the season?
I did.
Okay.
I like the ending.
Yeah, so I think we all agree. Really solid start. Pretty solid ending. And I'm looking forward to Season 2. I mean, for me, it scratches a Star Wars itch that the new Star Wars movies didn't. The new Star Wars movies, I think, tried to update Star Wars for the current generation. They tried to be subversive, whereas Mandalorian said, let's go for nostalgia. Let's make something that just feels like a fun space adventure. Let's have Easter eggs. Let's bring in a cute Baby Yoda. So I enjoy the world of Mandalorian. And it's sort of an anthology where each episode is mostly self-contained. So that means it's going to have its ups and downs. So I'm looking forward to Season 2. Before we get to that, Rich in the chat says, can you say how bad Capone was, even with the best actor in the film? We haven't actually watched Capone yet, but we are planning to, and we're planning to do a review of it. But bummer to hear that maybe it's not that great.
Yeah, it seems the reception has been mixed so far, but we'll go into it with an open mind.
That's right. As open in mind as we can.
Knowing how picky I am, it's, I can predict how it's going to go, but
And this is actually a good example of what I was saying earlier, where you can have a great actor in terrible and great movies, because we all love Tom Hardy. I think, Alon, you and me, Mad Max Fury Road, one of our favorite movies
Absolutely.
ever. And Tom Hardy is in Capone, or the main character in Capone. So we're going to go in with an open mind, and we'll report back on that. But jumping back to Mandalorian Season 2, they just announced that Katee Sackhoff, who played Bo-Katan in Star Wars Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels in an animated form, will be reprising her role in live action for Mandalorian Season 2. Now, the funny thing is that Season 1 ended with, and in minor spoilers, or I would say major spoilers for Mandalorian Season 1.
wait.
So Adam, Adam, cover your ears.
Okay.
So the season ended with Moff Gideon wielding the Dark Saber. And Bo-Katan, Katee Sackhoff's character, her story in Clone Wars and Rebels heavily involved the Dark Saber. Now, I'm getting this from the Deadline.com story, and Deadline.com says, and this is, I love this, they say, Season 1 ended with Moff Gideon holding the Dark Saber. There's been heavy speculation that the Dark Saber storyline will continue into Season 2.
Covering your ears doesn't work.
You can put those back on. But I would say it's more than heavy speculation. I would say that it's not really news that the cliffhanger ending of Season 1, we think it's going to pay off in Season 2. So I think it's a guarantee that will be making another appearance. But I'm pretty excited about this. Katee Sackhoff, you might remember her as one of the main actresses in Battlestar Galactica. We were all pretty big fans of this show. And she's someone who appears in a lot of sci-fi. It feels like it's the sort of thing you need to do. If you want to have real sci-fi cred as a television series, you've got to bring on Katee Sackhoff. The only thing is, this feels a little bit like a slap in the face, because I told you, Katee voiced the character on the show, and now she gets to play the character in live action. There's another fan favorite character, Ahsoka Tano, who was in Clone Wars and Rebels, voiced by Ashley Eckstein. This character is making the transition to live action, but for this character, they're putting in Rosario Dawson. So Ahsoka's got to be sitting there saying, why do you get to play your character in live action, but I get recast? Alon, I figured this is something you might have strong feelings about, because you always complain about when they take actors and have them do voice acting, and you think voice acting and live action acting, two different things.
I wouldn't say I always complain about it, but
It's all he talks about.
but that guy Robert something, he does Yakko's voice on Animaniacs.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
I feel
Rob
bad.
Paulson.
Rob Paulson. Okay, yeah, he's awesome, and he's talked before about how a lot of voice actors don't get as much work as they should because they like to put big time celebrities in voice acting roles,
Right.
when all they do is just talk in their normal voice.
Yeah.
So
You hear that, Katee Sackhoff? Stick to live action. No, I mean, it's a bummer for Ashley Eckstein, who voices the character, but I think what it comes down to is that voice acting and live action acting really are two different things. I think when you're in animated form, you express yourself through your voice more. You're thinking about different things. So, it's kind of a bummer for her, but I've been intrigued by the idea of having these characters that debut in animation and how they handle the transition to live action. So, if anything, that gets me a little bit more excited for Mandalorian Season 2, and it also makes me wonder if I should finally check out Star Wars Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, all these Star Wars TV series.
Sign me up for that. That sounds fun.
The Clone Wars series? Yeah. DB Cooper in the chat says, The Mandalorian is a space western and very entertaining. These guys who say they don't like it are womp rats. And then DB Cooper ends by saying,
I have spoken.
You've got to admit that character was awesome.
I
The
loved
Ugnaught.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so even if you're not a fan, the show had some pretty great highlights. I think one more thing to say about Mandalorian, and Alon, you were pretty annoyed that this information got released at all. So before we say it, we should again warn minor spoilers for The Mandalorian Season 2. But everybody who's watching the show has been wondering, when are we going to see the OG bounty hunter, the OG Mandalorian, Jango or Boba Fett, who we last saw in Return of the Jedi being swallowed in the Sarlacc pit? Everybody has been wondering, when is he going to show up in The Mandalorian? And it's finally been revealed that Temuera Morrison, the actor who played Jango Fett, has been cast in The Mandalorian Season 2. Now, Adam, I don't want to confuse you too much, but I see your eyes glossing over when I say Jango Fett.
I remember Jango Fett. I remember Boba Fett, but Boba Fett's he was in the prequels. Right?
Boba Fett was in...
Sorry, not prequels.
The original trilogy. That's right. So it's confusing, but Boba Fett debuted in the original trilogy. He had the helmet on. We never saw his face. Then when they came out with the prequels, it was revealed that Boba Fett is Jango Fett's son.
Mm-hmm.
The clone army was a bunch of clones of Jango Fett. But one clone in particular, Boba Fett, Jango decided to raise as his own son. So Boba Fett is a clone of Jango Fett, and he is the bounty hunter that we all know and love. So we know that the actor Temuera Morrison's been cast in Mandalorian Season 2. The expectation is that he's playing Boba Fett. That's not confirmed. There could be a curveball here. Maybe he's another clone. There's speculation that Baby Yoda could be a clone. Maybe Baby Yoda actually is Yoda. All questions that I'm sure will be addressed in the upcoming season. But I'm kind of two minds on this. On one hand, it feels like they're doing the opposite of what Better Call Saul does, where they just try to make a great show and they don't lure you in by saying, Walter White's going to show up.
Yeah.
Jesse's going to show up. But on the other hand, Mandalorian isn't Better Call Saul, right? It's a show that leans heavily into nostalgia. It's a fun, as D.B. Cooper says, space western. So if you're going to go for nostalgia, if you're going to go for giving us everything we love about Star Wars, what the hell? Throw Boba Fett in there. Give us a young Luke Skywalker. I want them to just lean heavily into the original trilogy. Give us everything that the new trilogy didn't give us.
Show us what Han Solo's up to.
Yeah, let's check in with Solo. Give us a Darth Maul cameo.
By the way, are they still going to make any Thrawn movies?
There are rumors that Thrawn is going to make his live-action debut soon, but nothing official has been announced yet.
Okay. So Star Wars will have me back, like, very interested if they make a Thrawn trilogy.
Tell us about Thrawn.
It's another Star Wars trilogy. It's a series of books that takes place after the original trilogy. It's got all the characters we know and love, and it's just a new story. It's a new villain, a very scary and cool villain, just like Darth Vader was, but very different kind of person. He's a general or something commander, I forget. But it's a very different kind of villain, and it was just really good to read.
And tying it all back together, if I'm not mistaken, Thrawn is blue.
Yeah.
Like the Avatars.
There you go.
There you go. Wait, Daniel, I forgot to ask, did you do your homework assignment?
I did. I've done a bunch of research on the Dark Saber, and it's funny that you brought up Darth Maul because he wielded the Dark Saber at one point.
All right, before we go to that, I just want to answer DB Cooper in the chat who asked, have you guys checked out Fargo yet? And I've watched Fargo Season 1. I was a huge fan of it. I think you watched that in the first couple seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that show and pretty disappointed about the fact that Fargo Season 4 was supposed to be airing now, but it's been delayed indefinitely because apparently they didn't finish production before the lockdown. So I'm eagerly awaiting the announcement of when that's going to air. And before Season 4 airs, I will for sure be finishing Season 2 and checking out Season 3. But Daniel, the Dark Saber appears like it's going to play an important role in The Mandalorian. It was in Clone Wars Rebels. Tell us what you learned about the Dark Saber.
Yeah, so the Dark Saber has a ton of importance in Mandalorian history. So it was created by the first ever Mandalorian Jedi. And when he died, the Jedi Temple, I guess they held on to the lightsaber and kept it there. But at one point, a group of Mandalorians, I think from the family of that Jedi, stole or they robbed the saber from the temple, brought it back to the Mandalorian homeworld, and they used it as it's sort of like a symbol of like Mandalorian leadership. And then they led I think like a rebellion against the Old Republic during like the fall of the Old Republic. And ever since then, it's been this important symbol basically of like Mandalorian solidarity. And it has some very interesting like characteristics itself. Obviously, it's black. It's shaped more like a saber than a regular lightsaber.
Right.
And then it had a few other things. I don't know if you guys are Star Wars experts and can help me understand this, but it has a crystal that channels Force energy.
Well, all
and also
lightsabers have that crystal.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And also, it's magnetically attracted to other lightsabers to help parrying. I don't know if that's how all sabers work.
Oh, so if you just hold the saber, it'll basically fight for you.
Yeah.
Like those guns in Westworld Season 3 where they aim for you. He knows
sort
what
of
I'm
like
talking about.
self-parrying saber.
It's shaped like a sword. Let's pull up a picture of it, actually.
I did not remember it at all at the end of Mandalorian. I guess it didn't seem important when I saw it.
It didn't. So I guess the Deadline.com article telling you that it's going to show back up in Season 2 really blew your mind. So Adam, here's the Dark Saber. Check this out.
Interesting. Wait, so is it like solid?
No, it glows. It's. I don't think it's solid, Daniel. Right? It's like a saber. It's just shaped more like a sword.
But like, can it pass?
It's a lightsaber that's black.
I see. Okay. Huh. So when you said it's saber shaped, I thought you meant it like it's actually curved, and I was like, whoa, you can curve the. I've never seen a curved lightsaber.
It has that like angle on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see this angle right here? Look at that.
That's intimidating.
Yeah. There you go. The
I don't
Dark
know how you
Saber.
Make black light though. Anyway.
Black light. You don't want to shine that over the bed of your hotel room.
All right. Well, I think we can move on from Star Wars. Anybody have anything else they want to say? Actually, Movie Files brought up a good point in the chat. My only issue with all these familiar characters joining the Mandalorian is this huge universe continues to get smaller and smaller. And I agree with that. One of the things we want to see from Star Wars is explore all the different corners of the universe that we didn't see in the original trilogy. I gave The Mandalorian big props for showing us, I believe, the first toilet in Star Wars. We saw it in Episode 1, I think. So I want to explore all those dark corners that we don't normally get to see. I don't think Mandalorian is the way it's going to happen. Mandalorian is where you go for the nostalgia. You go there for the familiar elements. But I'm hoping that some of these other series they're going to do, some of these other movies, just the other week, Taika Waititi was announced to be directing a Star Wars film. So hopefully he can take it in a different direction. So I agree it makes the universe feel smaller, but I think we're going to have to look elsewhere for something to expand that universe again. But moving on from Star Wars, we talked a bit already about what's happening to the film industry in the face of coronavirus. And around the world, some motions are happening to start reopening theaters, start resuming production on different movies. So I wanted to just go through a few quick hits of what's going on around the world. Let's start with the UK. This one's important because this is where Batman's being filmed. According to Forbes, the rules named the Film and TV Production Code of Practice are being revised, and they're planning to release those rules this Friday. When that happens, that basically says if you follow these guidelines, you can continue production. So maybe in the next few weeks, Batman can continue production. Japan is actually reopening 10 theaters this Friday.
Nice.
So will people start to flood back into the theaters? We'll see. A really interesting one is South Korea. So according to Variety, the #1 film exhibitor in South Korea, CJCGV, is using what they call untacked technology, basically contactless technology. It should be no surprise that South Korea is one of the first places that's reopening their theaters because, as we all know, if you want to watch baseball right now, you can only watch South Korean baseball. And in fact, I was wrong to say South Korea is going to reopen their theaters because their theaters are already open. They've been open throughout all of this, but currently their box office is doing about 5% of what it did last year.
Yikes.
But to try and get people back into the theater, they've replaced a bunch of its human staff with AI robots. They've got automated kiosks and mobile app services. Cinema goers no longer, Adam, you're going to like this. Cinema goers no longer need to encounter a human staff member to reserve, pick up, or scan their tickets. Snack bars are being replaced with LED-controlled pickup boxes, which deliver food items through the app.
That sounds cool.
So I'm excited to see how it goes in South Korea because, first off, I want theaters to reopen in America, so I hope we can look at all of that, see how it goes there. But some of this technology sounds great anyway. I don't want to put any of the humans there out of the job, but just the idea of robots walking around the theater. Maybe you can have like a Rotten Tomatoes robot that gives you movie recommendations when you walk in.
I hope the robots get to watch some movies.
Yeah, that's great, because have you ever gone to see a movie by yourself?
It sucks.
Yeah, in fact, I went to go see, I'm not going to say which movie it was, but I've seen a bunch of movies by myself, and it's always a sad thing to do. You have a robot sit next to you, watch it together. So we'll see if South Korea can give that to us. The other thing that's going on is Comic-Con. Comic-Con was canceled, but they are instead going to be doing Comic-Con at home. They haven't given any details, but they basically say free parking. You can bring your pets. You can participate in ways you couldn't participate before. And I think this is kind of the direction Comic-Con has been going.
Bring your pets, free parking.
That's what they say. Actually, Alon, if you want to pull it up, I'll show you the Comic-Con ad that they used to announce all of this. Yeah, right here. Comic-Con at home, coming soon. Free parking.
That's clever.
Comfy chairs. I don't know how great our chairs are. Personalized snack. No lines. Pets welcome. So Comic-Con has been getting more and more welcoming lately to wider audiences. It used to be that they would debut footage there. They would debut trailers there for movies that we were all really excited about, and only the people in the room would actually get to see it. Over the last couple of years, they've started to release a lot of that stuff online anyway. So I think it's been heading in a virtual direction. But the thing I'm wondering is, with all of these productions going on standstill, what sort of things are they going to be able to announce? What are they going to be able to show us? What I wonder is, are they going to maybe just release some details from movies that have been shrouded in secrecy so far? Think about things like The Matrix 4, or any of these upcoming comic book movies like Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. Maybe they'll just show us some stuff from those movies we haven't seen before. But the one thing I wanted to say is, my dream announcement for Comic-Con, this is what I hope they do. Imagine this, Adam. Who's directing Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness?
Sam Raimi.
And you're pretty excited about that, right?
Yes.
Why?
I like Sam Raimi.
There you go. Evil Dead, the original Spider-Man films.
Mm-hmm.
I'm crossing my fingers that we have some kind of a virtual panel. Sam Raimi pops up and he says, I'm now going to introduce the cast for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And he goes through the usuals, Benedict Cumberbatch. I think the Wanda from the Avengers movies is going to be in it. And then he says, and Tobey Maguire.
Yes.
You're going to be traveling through the multiverse. Into the Spider-Verse already got us used to the idea of multiple Spider-Men, Spider-People. Give us Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
It's what the people want.
What do you think, Adam? What do you think are would you be as excited about that as I would be?
Oh, I'd be extremely excited, but I'm not getting my hopes up.
Yeah, so I'm crossing my fingers for that. And I think for Comic-Con, those are probably the sort of things we're going to get. Virtual panels. I'm sure they're going to release trailers, footage, and all those sorts of things online. How about Alon, Daniel, any dream announcements? What do you want to see at Comic-Con? Think about Batman. Think about any of the movies. Tenet.
I want to see some Lord of the Rings content.
That would be great because they've given us very little information on that show. We've seen a world map, I think. We've seen some hints at the time period. We know some of the folks who have been cast in it, a lot of unknowns. Yeah. But show me
a costume or something.
A costume. Give me 5 minutes of footage to convince me that it's going to be a great show.
Show me what the ring looks like.
Let me see the ring, if the ring's even in it.
I mean, it better be.
DB Cooper in the chat says, you guys ever see the show The Shield? And I did. I saw that show years ago. I think I watched season 1. Was a fan of it. I didn't love it enough to stick with it. But Cooper, tell me if I should go back and keep watching. DB Cooper also says, here's some food for thought. Season 6 of Better Call Saul is 13 episodes long. 3 more episodes than all other seasons. Does this mean 3 episodes of Gene? Which, by the way, I'm not accusing you of plagiarism, but I said that exact thing in our Better Call Saul watch party. Mm-hmm. My prediction was that we would get 3 Gene-focused episodes. Anyway, I think those are the big news stories for the day. But I want to talk a little bit about what's coming up for OneTake. And I almost gave it away too soon. Alon, let's pull up the screen again. And I want to show this just to get people hyped up and excited. You see that? What makes you feel more nostalgic, Daniel, than seeing this little guy over here, this cute pup? And you got Shaggy Doo over here, all these guys. So Scoob comes out this Friday. It's one of the movies that was supposed to release in cinemas, but due to the lockdown, to help us all out, give us all some levity in this dark, dark world, we're getting Scoob on VOD on any one of these platforms this Friday. So we will be doing a review of Scoob hopefully on Friday. And if we're talking about Scooby-Doo, that means, Daniel, you've got to be on that episode, right?
Absolutely.
You love Scooby-Doo.
I do.
Let's hear that Scooby-Doo impression you're always doing.
No, I think that was Adam's.
Well, moving on from that. So we'll get the Scoob review on Friday. We still need to watch Capone, though after DB Cooper's rave review, I'm maybe a little bit less excited for that one. But we'll get the Capone review out. We've been watching Upload. We did a review of the first couple of episodes, but we all agreed we are going to finish the season and get a full season review out. And OneTake Daily. So we're trying to do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, where we just talk about the latest movie, TV news. We hang out. People join the chat, talk about whatever folks want to talk about. So we'll do this again this coming Friday. 6-ish, maybe 7, aiming for 6 o'clock EDT. But other than that, anything that you guys have been watching lately that you want to share? Anything else in the movie, TV world that you want to talk about?
Gangs of London.
Gangs of London. Adam, tell us about this show.
It's all the intrigue and inter-family conflict of Game of Thrones, but set in the modern day. And so far, it's consistently good, even though I've only seen 2 episodes.
I've seen 2 episodes, but I can already say that if the quality stays at the level of those first 2 episodes, Gangs of London will go down as one of my favorite shows of all time.
And it's created by one of our favorite directors, Gareth Evans, who made The Raid 2, as well as a bunch of other great movies with amazing fight choreography.
Now, it's very rare nowadays for me to stumble across a director and just fall in love with their work and immediately devour everything they've done. It used to happen to me all the time when I was younger. That's when I found out about Wes Anderson, Stanley Kubrick, all of the greats. But recently, Gareth Evans is one of them. I saw The Raid Redemption and The Raid 2. Those movies are incredible. They brought me back to action. I hadn't cared about an action movie in a long time, but seeing the choreography in those movies was mind-blowing. And then I go online and I find out Gareth Evans has got a TV show coming out. Not only that, but all 10 episodes have been released in the UK, and there are certain ways for you to get access to those streaming services in the UK. But the show is incredible. Rich in the chat says Alex Garland. He's another director that gave me the same feeling. Seeing Ex Machina, then seeing, what's the other one he did? Annihilation, just recently, Devs. He's another director I keep my eye on. And similar to Gareth Evans, recently played in the TV world. So we've seen 2 episodes of Gangs of London. Very eager for Alon to finally watch those 2 episodes so he can catch up and we can finish the season. Daniel, how about you? You've been watching some stuff recently.
Yeah, I started watching Billions a little while ago. I've been binging it.
Tell us about Billions. Are you a fan of the show? Has it lived up to the hype?
Yeah, I mean, I really like it. I'm on the beginning of season 3 now. I'm worried it's going to start going like a little over the top, which I feel like Showtime shows do a lot. And this show has had like hints of that. But for the most part, the characters are just like, they're very interesting and the story's pretty cool. So I really like it.
Awesome. I'm debating whether or not I catch up. Season 5 started, I think, 2 weeks ago. Every season has, I think, 12 episodes. So I don't know. Can I binge 43 hours of Billions in the next week and catch up in time for the next episode? We'll see. The other thing I want to give a shout out to is Ricky Gervais. I was a big Ricky Gervais fan back in the day. I loved the original Office. I loved Extras. And recently, I've fallen in love with Ricky Gervais all over again because he just dropped Afterlife Season 2 on Netflix. I was a big fan of this season. I loved the show. Season 1 was great, and I think Season 2 continued that quality. It's a funny show. It's a very emotional show. Ricky Gervais is actually an incredibly talented actor, and that's very much on display here. Rich shouts out Invention of Lying.
I like that movie.
Yeah, I was a fan of that movie. It probably wasn't my favorite work from Ricky Gervais, but I did enjoy it, and I want to see him do more film. In fact, he just dropped an animated film a couple weeks back, which I've been planning to check out because I hear people love it. But Afterlife Season 2 on Netflix, if you haven't watched it, I recommend that. And then I went back and watched both seasons of Ricky Gervais' show, Derek, which is also on Netflix. Similar tone as Afterlife. Highly recommend it. And then I've been diving deep into, this is a deep cut for Ricky Gervais, but back in the day, he did the Ricky Gervais Show, one of the OG incredible podcasts. And before that, he did a show on XM Radio. I've been catching up on all of that. So I'm literally listening to radio from the early 2000s. And it's all great stuff. Rich says Extras. That's right. That's another great Gervais show, which I believe is also on Netflix. So I think that about wraps it up. First episode ever of OneTake Daily. I quite enjoyed that. What do you think, Adam?
I give it 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Wow. Alon, anything else to say on the topic of film, television, anything you've been watching, listening to that you want to share with our lovely audience?
Well, I also watched Afterlife and thought it was fantastic. And I kind of want to get back to theaters, especially for Tenet.
Yeah.
That's my key takeaway.
I would go.
Me
You'll
too.
go?
Yeah, I would go if it opened in July.
All right. Me too. I'm hoping, crossing my fingers harder than I've ever crossed them, that a couple months from now, we're in a theater. I got that delicious popcorn smell. And
Well, you can't take your mask off to eat.
you know what I'm going to do?
Blend it all up. Put stick a straw in there.
Just drink popcorn.
Yeah.
Actually, I used to work in a movie theater, and behind the concession stand, we always kept a thing of Purell.
Mhm.
So the smell of Purell and popcorn became so intertwined for me that when I smell Purell, it literally smells like popcorn. So if I could just get some Purell inside my mask, it'll give me the same popcorn smell experience while I watch Christopher
and
Nolan.
it'll disinfect you.
That's right. I'll just start chugging Purell during the movie. It'll be great. All right. Well, with that, I think we can wrap it up. So thanks, everybody, for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and, of course, the bell icon so you get notified the next time we go live. And like Rich, like DB Cooper, like Xavier Lee, you can be an amazing person. You can be part of the chat. And let us know in the comments if there's anything else you'd like us to review. We're always on the lookout for more shows, more movies that can create great conversations, movies and shows that you can really sink your teeth into. So let us know in the comments. And with that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next One Take.